what I'm going to try and go over is the legislative branch, also known as Congress. So we're going to look at Article 1 of the United States Constitution, just like you did in class when you read the primary source and we went over the information. So do you have what it takes? So let's start going over the information. All right, the first part is the creation of the branch. So remember, we're at the Constitutional Convention. There's a lot of argument about the legislative branch, or Article 1. It's the most contentious, that means the most debated, like actual branch. When you look at the Constitutional Convention and what's going on, when you look at the legislative branch, it's one of the branches that the states could not get on board and agree with. You know, you had some states trying to control it, you had states who understood what was going on, and so what we start seeing is a Virginia versus a New Jersey plan. So the Virginia plan wanted a bicameral or a two-house legislative branch, and they wanted it all based on population. The New Jersey people come up with a plan too, and they wanted everybody to be the same. They only wanted a unicameral, a one-house legislative branch, and they wanted it based on equality, like everybody would get one vote. The problem with the New Jersey plan is that's identical to what the Articles of Confederation had. And the problem with Virginia's plan is that Virginia was trying to dominate the brand new states. So everybody, you know, kind of come to a standstill for a while. Like you got big states like the southern states who had slaves and who were trying to count them kind of into their population. And then you had New Jersey and other smaller states understanding that the new government would be dominated by these large southern states or the larger states, and that small states really wouldn't have much say. So eventually Connecticut come up with a compromise, and it's called the Great Compromise, or the Connecticut Plan, or the Connecticut Compromise. And remember, a compromise is a give and take. You get some stuff, but you're not going to get everything. So Virginia got the bicameral legislative branch because we have two houses. Virginia also gets population. So we are going to create a House of Representatives that is going to be based on population. New Jersey got the Senate. And so everybody in the United States Senate is the same. Everybody gets 2 senators per state. And so it's based on equality. The House and how it actually goes about is every 10 years we take a U.S. Census, which, you know, 2020 U.S. Census year, so you should have got a postcard, a letter in the mail, you fill it out, you can even fill them out online. And it lets the government know how many people are in the area. It also lets the government know how they should spend money, where they should spend money on your area. So it's very important to do your U.S. Census. But it also tells you how many representatives you're going to get, and this is called apportionment. So we'll look at it in another slide. But when you look at our House and our Senate, their main job, their day-to-day job, is to create bills which will become laws as long as the president signs on them. So that's pretty much how Article 1 kind of set up and created our branch. How most things get done in the United States Congress is through committees. So when you look at Congress, there's 100 senators and there's 435 representatives in the House. That's 535 people working on making laws. So that's a lot of people, so we break it down in the committees. So you have House committees, you have Senate committees. Most of the work is going to be done in these committees. So they just specialize in certain subject areas. And so I'll show you like some of the committees. And there's different kinds of committees, but in general, they just specialize on certain topics that deals with our country and our operation of our country. How you get on a committee is basically seniority. So the longest running member, the longest serving members are going to be the ones who get their choice committees. Everybody's on multiple committees. There's no, like you're not going to just be on one. You're on a couple different ones typically. And remember when we did it in class, you kind of want to get on a committee that your state that you represent really is interested in or needs help in. So, like North Carolina, big military state, it wouldn't be odd to see a North Carolina senator or House member on a Veterans Affairs Committee. All right, so here are the different committees. So these are just our standing committees for our House and for our Senate. So when you look at the House, here's different ones. These are always standing committees. They're always there. And here's our Senate one. So there's certain ones that are, maybe more choice based on your state. Like agriculture is a big part of North Carolina. So you're going to see some of our people being on those kind of committees. There are more House people than there are Senate. Okay. So, like when we're talking about that, how a bill becomes a law, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But we went over it in class. Basically, a House or Senator member has to introduce the proposed bill. Once it gets proposed, it's going to go into the committee, so it gets put into a committee system. When it gets into the committee, they're going to kind of, assign it to a subcommittee. So, like, agriculture is big. That's a big thing. So, if this bill is talking about soybeans and what you could do with soybeans, or it's talking about maybe, I don't know, corn and how you could use that as a fuel source, you're probably going to want to get another specialty committee set up to write a bill on that. It could be something like with education. How do you want to do education for, high school versus elementary is very different. So you're going to have like committees within the bigger committees, the umbrella kind of committees. So when you look at these committees, these are the big names, but then they've got little like subcommittees within them. So when you look at your subcommittee, what they're going to do is they're going to make sure everything is perfect on that bill, or it dies. Okay, and a lot of bills die in committee system. They're not talking about them. They're not going in depth into them. They're just, they've got the paperwork and they're just kind of sitting on it. They're not doing anything with it. But if the subcommittee feels that this bill is really good and they've flushed out the language, they made sure everything is perfect, they're going to recommend to the committee to go ahead and try and get it on the floor for debate. So once the committee is good with it, they're going to ask either the House or the Senate, they're going to ask them to go ahead and allow it to be on the floor for debate. Once it's on the floor for debate, it's going to be voted on. If it's approved, then it's going to go ahead and it's going to go to the opposite house and it's going to start it all over again. And remember, I kind of call this like a double check procedure. So now once the House has had it and the Senate's had it, great. If everything is fine, it's identical, it'll then go to the president and the president can sign it on the law or veto it. And that is very short and a very simple way of a bill becoming a law. So in the House, in order for you to be a member of the House, you got to be at least 25 years old. You have to have been a U.S. citizen for 7 years, which means you could be a former immigrant and have become a naturalized citizen. You went through citizenship, and you have to reside in the state. So if you're going to represent North Carolina, you better know what North Carolinians' concerns are. You better know that in North Carolina, we are a major producer of poultry and pork items. That's big product items for us. You got to know about the fact that agriculture plays a huge role in our area. Maybe not in Fayetteville as much, but most of North Carolina still is kind of a rural area. You got to know about the military. So we always want our representatives to live and be knowledgeable about the state they're going to represent. They have 2-year terms. So every 2 years, these people are constantly up for renewal or for re-election. So there are no term limits. So you can see House members who have been in the House 20, 30 years because they constantly get re-elected. Now, there are some things that are just House powers. So, we talked about how a bill becomes a law. I've talked about those committees. But there are some things that are just for the House. One of them is revenue or tax bills. So tax bills, all revenue bills, are going to come through the House. They are the ones that are doing the spending and stuff. The next thing that they have exclusive power over is investigating and issuing any impeachment charges against the president. So, or against any executive or judicial branch member. So when the House investigates, they're kind of like acting as cops. So they're looking at, is there really a reason to indict, impeach, charge an executive or judicial branch member? And it's only for the federal government. So it's not like they can do it for like the state government. So there's a little bit of a difference. Your current Speaker of the House is Nancy Pelosi. And so remember, we'll look at it here. The Speaker of the House is going to come from whatever political party is actually in the majority. So right now, when you look at Nancy Pelosi, she's a Democrat. The Democrats currently control the House. So there's more Democrats in the House than there are the Republicans. Okay. The Speaker of the House is important because they are always second in line for the presidency. And part of the reason why we've done it that way is that, remember, they are elected in and out every 2 years. So you see more change sometimes in the House than you will in the Senate. And so the House is always believed to be closer to the people, I mean, every 2 years, if you're having to like get your job renewed, there's a chance that it might not happen. So it's a little bit more than the 6 years for the senators. There's a 435 member cap, and this was done in 1929. We went ahead and we put a limit to how many representatives there can be. So when states' populations change, and they do, like North Carolina has seen an increase in recent years with people, they're going to do an apportionment, and it'll be a reapportionment. So maybe people are leaving New York. You are seeing a lot of people leaving Michigan. You're seeing people leave Ohio and New Jersey. You're seeing a lot of people leaving those northern states, coming to the southern states, and they're coming here, cheaper cost of living, could be retirement, could be job opportunities, whatever, but they're coming here. And so some of the southern states have started to increase their representatives. So they would take a delegate, they would take a representative from one of those states because they're losing people, and that would be then given to North Carolina. There is a time limit on speeches and debates in the House. So in the House, they normally, like, the House Rules Committee will like set times and stuff on it, and it just depends on the bill. But imagine 435 people not having time limits. So there's always conditions and rules for debate, and it's going to be by the House Rules Committee, which is why this is a very powerful committee and a very important committee.